All right, here we are. So, the NFL got its first look at Shedeur Sanders tonight. And in my opinion, he didn't just show up, he sent a message. So, we're going to talk about what that message was, what went well, what didn't go as well. And we're also going to talk about his response to his own performance. To count, or so far, I've counted about 3 interviews he's done post game, and we've seen a little bit of a different demeanor from Shedeur Sanders in each of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that right after this intro.
Queen bitch, supreme bitch, I'ma stay that bitch.
All right, so Shedeur Sanders, oof, audio, my bad, y'all. It probably sounds okay on y'all's end. On my end, it sounds weird, but Shedeur Sanders um, had his NFL debut tonight, and I would say for the most part, fans are excited. But there's a reason why I think he's getting this perception that goes beyond the performance, beyond the stats, beyond how the Cleveland Browns are preparing for this season. A lot of it has to do with the trajectory of Shedeur Sanders and some of the things that have happened off the field going back to the draft. So I am going to talk about his performance tonight. I am. I'm going to grade it and everything. We're going to get into it, but there's some things I haven't had time to address. And I feel like we need to start from the very beginning because it's a very good place to start, right? Um, and if we start from the beginning, I got to address Dan Orlovsky because the other day, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, he put out a video telling Shedeur fans that they needed to cut it out, that they needed to chill with the narrative. But he acted as though people were upset that he was getting a start because he said something along the lines of, "Who do you expect to start?" Well, of course, fans of Shedeur Sanders are not upset that he's starting in the preseason. He's a rookie. He should be starting in the preseason. And for anybody who expects him to have any playing time in the regular season, they're excited that he's starting in the preseason. That was not the issue, Dan Orlovsky. The issue goes back to the very beginning, like I said, because before the draft, before everything happened, if we go back to January, February, even as far back as the Shrine Bowl, I believe, because I remember Shedeur Sanders was at the Shrine Bowl, Cam Ward was at the Shrine Bowl. I met their quarterback coach. It was the same, they have the same quarterback coach, right? And there were actual articles, actual news stories written about their quarterback coach because of the fact that he had coached such good prospects for quarterbacks who were expected to go high in the draft, right? So this idea that Shedeur Sanders should have been drafted high was not imaginary, right? And then fast forward to draft night, he doesn't go in the first round. Throughout the weekend, he doesn't go in the second round, third round, fourth round, ends up going in the fifth round, right? And so when Dan Orlovsky says things like chill with the narrative, like they're setting him up to fail, like I feel like the setup started then. Before he even went to the Browns, the setup started then. Because what you're not about to do, Dan Orlovsky, is gaslight NFL fans into believing that that whole situation didn't happen and that there wasn't some sort of, whether you want to call it collusion, a plan, a conspiracy, whatever. You can't convince us that that's not weird. You're not about to sit here and convince us that that shit's not weird. Especially considering the fact that like a 61-page document just dropped about NFL owners and them conspiring, colluding, whatever you want to call it. The only reason that things were ruled in their favor was based on a legal technicality. But basically, the owners got together and decided that um, they didn't want players to have guaranteed money, right? And so if they'll collude about something like that, why would they not get together and kind of have somewhat of a plan for what they want to have happen to Shedeur Sanders, right? So fast forward, the head coach ends up making a statement about how not everybody in the building wanted Shedeur Sanders to be a member of the Cleveland Browns, suggested that like, oh, that was the owner's decision. And, it just kind of came down and we went with it. And then you look at the videos and he looked less than enthused. And then you hear that Shedeur is not really getting any reps in camp. He's not getting any reps with the ones, hardly getting any reps at all, to the point where he told his own father, don't come to camp. Don't even come out here and watch this, right? So when fans of Shedeur Sanders talked about him being set up to fail, it wasn't just like, oh, he's starting and We don't think he's ready. We think it's bad timing. It wasn't any of that bullshit, Dan Orlovsky. It had to do with everything that happened leading up to that and the feeling that he was not put in a position to succeed. Because typically, if someone's going to be starting in a game, someone's going to be at the quarterback position, you want them to have reps, you want them to be prepared. And every indication was that he was not being prepared to take snaps, because you can't give somebody 3 or 4 snaps at a practice and then let's be real. Would he have even been starting had the Browns not have 2 quarterbacks ahead of him in the depth chart get hurt? So not only was he not set up for success, it didn't even seem like leading up to this moment that they wanted him to play at all in the preseason. And it just so happened that the way things fell, he ended up playing. So I just had to get all that off my chest because I hadn't had a chance to address it. And I'm just seeing all these people talk about stop with the narrative. Y'all are acting like people are against him. People are against him. Shedeur Sanders fans are not crazy. Sanders family fans are not crazy. Cleveland Brown fans are not crazy. Like, people are against him. We can read, we can see, we can hear. Like, chill the fuck out. All right, I'm gonna read some of y'all's comments, and then we're gonna talk about Shedeur's actual performance. I'm gonna see if I can pull up one of those interviews that he did. I'll pull this closer to me. I'm gonna adjust here a little bit. I was rushing to get ready. I know I was tweeting earlier, but I was tweeting while working. So like sometimes I go live and people think I've just been tweeting all night. Usually not the case. So I'm adjusting a little bit. Clement, what's up? Good to see you. Clement says, I know that it was only preseason against the Panthers first team, but he was balling with his second teamers. Yes. Evidence that he was the best QB in the draft. Kim Ward might have something to say about that. Keep shining, Shedeur. Clement goes on. Never be satisfied. Continue to progress to the next season game. And the coach did say something about that we'll talk about. And Clement wants all of y'all to like the content. So yes, please like this video if you're watching. If it's your first time seeing me, please subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you in advance for all of that. So now let's talk about the performance. We'll go stats first because the game just happened. I didn't pull any clips. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, but we'll go stats first. Shedeur Sanders was 14 of 23 tonight for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was sacked twice for a total loss of 6 yards. He ended up with a quarterback rating of 106.8, which is pretty solid. Now, in one of it was in the sideline interview. When he did that sideline interview before the game was over, that was when he sounded kind of apologetic. The interviewer had asked him, she was like, yeah, your dad is cutting up on social media. What would you say to him? And he was like, sorry, Dad, I didn't do what I planned to do. And I'm just like, what? Like, I can understand. Okay, Shedeur Sanders, if you watch him through college, he's always been hard on himself. That's part of the reason why his nickname has grown, because they just always felt like he was like mature, that he had a good perspective, good head on his shoulders. And part of that good perspective was him holding himself to a high standard, being very critical. But even knowing that, I still expected him to celebrate his wins from tonight a little bit more than what he did. And so when he was asked what he would say to his dad, who was, if you were following along on Twitter, was very proud of his performance, and he was like, yeah, sorry, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I'm just like, what? Fam. But I think that's because I'm one of the people who was watching and was very happy for him, happy that he got the start, happy that he went out there and did some great things. And so we're looking at it as fans from the perspective of, okay, he didn't get a lot of reps, didn't get any reps with the ones, didn't seem like the team even wanted him to have this start. It just so happened 2 other quarterbacks got hurt. And then he went out there and he did his thing. He had one of his better performances out of everything most of us have seen from him throughout his entire athletic career, right? So we're looking at it from that perspective. He may have been looking at it from another perspective. I've watched 2 more interviews from tonight, And from putting it all together, in the sideline interview, it wasn't clear. But then when he did the post game interview where he was still on the field, he did talk about, some things not going smoothly and some of his throws being off. And then in the post game press conference where he was at the podium, he started going into a little bit more detail. And I'm gonna see if I can pull that one up before we get off of here. When I was getting on, it hadn't been posted to YouTube, but I'll see if I can find it. But putting all the information together from everything that he said, I think probably the thing that he's most disappointed in is his completion percentage, because while those touchdowns were impressive and they were fun to watch, and then, that one throw to the sideline where the receiver caught it one-handed, it's going to be on all the highlight reels. So if you didn't catch it, make sure you're watching all the sports shows this weekend, and on Monday, they're going to show it. It was a good one. But 14 of 23, that's about 60%-ish. So I can understand someone like Shedeur Sanders being a little bit disappointed in that. Also, I'm not sure what he was expecting from himself in terms of pocket presence. What I was looking for from him in terms of pocket presence was to see if he could make more of his throws off of a stable platform. Because his footwork comes and goes, not all his fault. I think some of the reason for that is because, especially at Colorado, the O-line wasn't always great. The O-line had its moments, especially his last year there, but for most of his career, his O-line was not reliable. They were not dependable. So he spent a lot of time, and this is also where him holding onto the ball too long came from, I think, as well. He spent a lot of time in positions where he was trying to make a play, and he had to be careful about either not fumbling if he got hit or being ready to tuck the ball and run. And so because of that, he ended up holding the ball for a long time, and his footwork was iffy. He did a lot of drifting in the pocket at Colorado, where he'd be in one spot, and then as he would start to kind of feel pressure from one side, instead of making a decision and going, he'd end up drifting. And we can, get into all the reasons for that another time. But basically, after seeing that at Colorado, what I was looking for with the Browns, and some of this does depend on his offensive line, but what I was looking for with the Browns was for him to be a little bit more decisive, a little bit more quick to decide. I was looking for him to make his reads properly, which he definitely did that the majority of the time, especially on his touchdown passes. And I was looking for him to make his throws off of a stable platform, which did not always happen. Basically, when he takes off to run, he usually ends up not throwing off platform. But he has gotten a lot better at stepping into his throws even when he did take off to run. So he'll find his footing before he releases the ball, even if he did take off to run. So he's gotten a lot better at that. And when he was in the pocket, oh, the footwork looked great. The releases looked great. Very nice touch on the ball. So those times where it didn't quite go perfectly, maybe he was disappointed in that. There were a couple of times where the pocket collapsed and he was being chased, and maybe he felt like he should have figured out a different path, gone on a different trajectory, because there were at least 2 times, maybe 3, where he ended up going backwards a lot of yards. And it was not good. But I tend not to put too much blame on quarterbacks when they're in that position, because it's like, okay, well, you've got pressure coming from both sides. So it wasn't like he could have gone right and ended up going backwards. Like, no, you got pressure coming from both sides. So you went where the pressure wasn't coming from and tried to figure out, what to do from there. So this is just my speculation. He was not very specific at all in terms of what he was disappointed in. Even when he was asked, he just kind of was like, general about his performance and didn't name anything specific. But, those were the things that I saw where I was like, okay, if I was Shedeur Sanders and I had to critique myself, this might be what I would look at and be like, you know what, I got to get better at that. So while I do want him to enjoy this win and I do want him to feel good about it, I want him to be proud of his performance, I do also like that he's looking at what he can do better, what he can improve, because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. It's like you kind of want to, as much as you can, you want to be even killed anyway as a competitor. But even if you do feel good about a win, you don't want to hold on to that too long, because the season goes by fast. And he doesn't know how many reps he'll get in practice or at training camp. Um, and even when it came to the next preseason game, I did see part of the press conference with Coach Stefanski when he was at the podium, and they asked him if Shedeur would be starting the next preseason game, and he said that he hadn't gotten that far. Which brings me to another point about Shedeur. I think Shedeur also thought that he could earn more snaps. I don't know, and it's crazy that I don't know. I'm assuming that what Coach Stefanski said about him getting 50 snaps tonight made it to his ears as well. I'm assuming that. Um, but I'm also like, well, if it did, why would he have expected to earn more snaps? It's like, no, you were supposed to get about 50. Um, so yeah, but I forget which interview it was, but one of his post game interviews, it did sound like he thought that he would have earned more snaps had he performed well. And I don't think the number of snaps was impacted at all by his performance. I think Stefanski had his number, he hit that number or somewhere around there, and that was that. But based on the words of Coach Stefanski, it is unclear whether or not Shedeur will start in the next preseason game or how many snaps he'll get. What Stefanski said was that he needed to see who was healthy and how things went and so on and so forth. It was a very wishy-washy answer. Um, I wish Stefanski had shown a little bit more enthusiasm about Shedeur's performance as well, especially considering the headlines surrounding his reaction to the news that came out about the rumors that the owner was the one who wanted Shedeur and that other people in the building didn't necessarily want him. You would think that if those headlines came out and you felt differently, that you would do something to show, like, hey, I actually do support this young man. I want him to succeed. I want him to do well. I'm excited that he did well tonight, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. But that didn't seem to be the case. There might be more to talk about with the Browns this season than I thought, because between the weird dynamic between the coaches and the players and Shedeur, and by that I mean the players were visibly happy. Like, even after the sideline interview, when Shedeur was like kind of apologetic, like, oh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. When they cut him on the sideline and he was talking to the players, it seemed to be some good rapport there. He seemed happy. They seemed happy. Everything seems good there. I didn't see that same kind of interaction with the coaches. Um, and then the fans, oh my God, there were so many Browns 12 jerseys in the stands. There were people flashing their watches and whatnot. Like, there was love for Shedeur Sanders in that stadium. There definitely, and this was an away game for them. This was not at the Brown Stadium. This was a home game for the Panthers and away game for the Browns. So, but you still had so many people there in their Cleveland Brown 12 jerseys, flashing their watches, celebrating with Shedeur. So I'm just like, there just seems to be so much love among the players and among the fans. But for some reason, when it comes to the coaching, it's just not really there in the same way. And I know coaches, you don't want to see them play favorites and things like that. But I'm just like, I feel like if you're rooting for a player and you know that that player did not get a lot of reps for whatever reason, maybe you had your reasons, but you know that player did not get a lot of reps, and the decision to start them was a last minute decision, and they still go out and show out like that and make your team look good like that and make your play calling look good, you could crack a smile, you could give a compliment. I mean, damn, what? Um, but if y'all have any questions or comments about this, leave them in the chat. I'm gonna see if I can pull up his interview. I'm gonna see if the Cleveland Browns have posted any part of his interview or when he was at the podium. Let me see. Okay, it looks like we have his podium interview. So I'm gonna pull that up and we'll go through it question, and we can kind of talk about what he had to say and what we saw in the game based on what he had to say. And I will warn you, and by the time he gets to the podium, this is his third time discussing his performance. So he is happier at the podium than he was in the sideline interview. And from what I did see, if you watch a lot of Shedeur Sanders interviews, you've heard him do this. It's this thing where he starts inserting general phrases into his speech. I don't know. You'll hear what I'm talking about. But at least the young man is happy. And when we get to it, I'll tell y'all what I'm talking about because I don't know if I'm explaining it well. But let me go ahead and pull this up so we can talk about it together as a group, as a class.
Everybody did their part, and I feel like everybody believed. I would say just the energy around. I would say, well, since I've been around, the energy around like the Browns. I just feel like overall, it was a different sport. I feel like it was a sport, even though it's a preseason game. Typically, people don't take those too much serious, but like that's our Super Bowl. That's each and every player Super Bowl. So the change is a family thing. It's a family. You got to be able to go to war with each and every guy and understand like we're not playing for ourselves here. We playing for each other. So not making selfish mistakes, not doing that type of stuff. Getting through reads, handing the ball off, doing what you got to do. Everybody do their job, and that's how we believe in one another.
Shedeur, the fact that you played so many plays into the fourth quarter versus the way it's gone in camp with the reps being split, how did that help your comfort level just in going with the game?
Well, I say I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable, so that's what it is. I got pockets of finding my rhythm, and I got to get into that quicker, regardless of anything. But overall, I feel like me out there, and I couldn't do it, of course, without the time. I couldn't do it without the play call. I couldn't do it without anything. So I'm just thankful to even be able to have, the joy of just being on the field overall, then carrying the responsibility of doing the right thing. So that's 2 badges under my belt already. That I.
So statements like 2 badges under my belt is what I'm talking about. And I don't know. Let me know if the sound is weird on y'all's end because on my end it sounds like he's really quiet and I'm really loud. So if that's hurting y'all's ears, let me know. But yeah, statements like badges under my belt is what I'm talking about when I'm like, yeah, he starts inserting random phrases into his speech in a weird order. But no, what he said about feeling like himself, I'm really glad that he got around to that point because in his other interviews, he seemed to be really focused on what he did not do well and what did not go well. And so I like the fact that he said that he felt like himself, that he was able to loosen up and just kind of find some good timing with his guys. Because honestly, that's when he does perform his best. Um, when he's able to kind of not think so much. And that is something else that I liked. Something else that I liked is that it didn't seem like the game was too fast for him. When it comes to NFL rookies, that's something that you hear a lot. Oh, they need time for the game to slow down, or they're just having trouble making their reads. He was making his reads. It felt like he was going with the game. The only thing was that sometimes his O line wasn't really keeping up with the defense, to put it nicely. Yeah, he was feeling the pressure, and that affected him at times. But other than that, I really do feel like he was able to just be himself, especially with some of those throws. Like you could tell there were some times where the play was broken, where he had to scramble a little bit longer than you'd like. Um, but he was still able to make connections. He was still able to communicate, keep his eyes up, so on and so forth. And so I feel like when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, regardless of how you decide to call the plays, regardless of how, like, what kind of scheme you're in, whatever, at the end of the day, he needs to be in a position where he can rely on his own instincts and intuition. And that's when you're going to see the best version of him.
I got out there, I feel like we operated the huddle really, really good. So it's just the small details that of course we practice on and we talk about. And I'll say, of course, towards the end, I'll say we got a little sloppy and we overall gonna finish it up, and that's gonna be a point of emphasis going into this next week. But I was just thankful just to share that moment with everybody.
Sure, how do you think you handled the nerves and the adrenaline right off the bat?
I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't nervous, or I didn't really have too much adrenaline. It was just getting comfortable. That's all it is. Like there's plenty of games before, like I was nervous, but I felt like I knew the answers to the test. So it's like when you feel unprepared, then when you don't feel like you're ready for the moment. I know I'm ready for the moment. Did I play up to par? No, I don't feel like I did. But overall, the main goal was to win, and that's honestly what we did.
All right. So when he says he doesn't feel like he played up to par, that made me think about the post game interview where he was still on the field and he was asked how he would grade himself. And he said that he would give himself a C plus, which at first I was like, a C plus, dang dude. But then like when I thought about it, I was like, no, I think if I graded it him, like, because I was actually thinking about it before I heard him give that answer, and I was going B or B minus. I was in between a B or a B minus. So C plus is not that far off, but mainly because of the things that I mentioned earlier. There are some things that he definitely needs to work on. Am I proud of what he did under the circumstances? Yes. Um, am I proud of what he did, especially considering that it's his first NFL game? It's a preseason game. Absolutely. But does he still need to work on those things, some of those bad habits that have been carried over from his college days? Absolutely. I just have faith in him to do that. That's why I'm not really like pessimistic about it. I'm not angry about it. I think he needs time to work on that, especially in a new system with new players around him. But I 100% trust him to work on that and to get better at it. But the fact that they are still an issue, if we're grading this performance in a silo for what it is, yeah, B, B minus. So his C plus, acceptable. But when he said he didn't play up to par, I feel like that's kind of what he's referring to. He's going back to like, yeah, what's that grade? C plus. That's not up to par. Shedeur Sanders is one of those players who definitely wants to be able to grade himself as an A level quarterback at the end of a game. And I'm not in disagreement that that happened today. I just want to see him appreciate his own wins. All right, let's keep going.
I don't even have Twitter on my phone. Yeah, I get reckless on there.
Facts.
I texted him before the game. I called him. He didn't answer. I said, this why I just don't call you. He didn't answer the phone. He didn't answer the phone when I called him. But, they have their own fall camp going on and everything. So, I forgive him a little bit. But he sent me a voice message that's pretty cool overall. I don't know if it's still on my phone, but overall, like, I'm just thankful, just for the opportunity. And I got you.
Okay, his dad not answering his phone call is kind of crazy, but I do like the fact that his dad sent him a voice message, and I'm kind of wondering if that's what got him in better spirits. Because if you watch that sideline interview, I might have to do a separate video just showing the progression from the sideline interview to the post game interview on field to this. Because that sideline interview, he seemed outright sad. Like he was just like, man, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. He said he didn't do what he was supposed to do multiple times. And then by the time he got out of his jersey, out of his pads into this podium, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I didn't play up to par, but it was great.
I mean, I think overall in life, I don't want anybody to make excuses. I feel like making excuses for whatever situation. It's like you ask God for something and it's there, then you're going to complain about it. So it's like it's two ways you could look at it. You could look at it and be thankful and take full advantage of the opportunity, or you could look at it like, dang, this is what I've been asking for. I'm not prepared. So I'll say I've been able to sleep good at night, knowing I was playing. I didn't know I was playing to, I don't know, one of the days that was close. and then I just prepared it as normal. But it was definitely that switch and it kicked in. And when you out there on the field, it's different. Like, you understand, ball's ball. I never.
Hold on, I'm gonna let him finish, but I have to comment on what he just said because like the young man is preaching. He said like he said you can't ask God for something and then complain when you get it, which is an interesting perspective. It's a wonderful perspective because, like, let's be real, a lot of Shedeur Sanders fans have been upset about the whole way this played out. And even with him getting the start, there are people who are upset that the only reason he got the start is because two other quarterbacks got hurt, right? Or at least that's how it looks. Um, and so that's where the narrative about him being set up to fail started because everything leading up to that was bad enough. And then you add that on top of it, like, okay, so now you haven't been giving him reps and now you're going to have him start in front of everybody. Like, I think for fans in our minds, it's like, how could he be prepared? Like, this isn't fair to him. And so for him to come out and say to the press and on a forum where fans can hear it, like, hey, I'm grateful. I can't sit here and pray for the opportunity to do this. And then it comes and then I turn around and I'm still ungrateful. It's like, yo, all I can do is, once it's my time, be as prepared as possible. So I really feel like that's a good message.
the ball never been a problem for me. It's, whatever optics or whatever everybody makes up after outside the game. But in the game, y'all kind of know who I am.
When did you feel yourself settle in? You remember when? Was it a particular throw? You made a couple really quick throws. When did you feel yourself really settling in?
I can't be specific. I don't know specifically when. I just know the feeling overall. So, and that's really the most routes I threw to all the receivers. So I really didn't know how someone came out the breaks and everything. So that's why I feel like point of emphasis this week is, just be prepared even more, because I feel like I was straight, but I feel like to be where I want to go, I don't think that was good enough. I don't even remember the play, honestly, right now. I mean, incompletions. There's incompletions out there. I know that.
There we go. See, I didn't hear that part of his press conference earlier, because when I was watching it on NFL Network, they cut it off before it got to that part. So yes, it was the incompletions that he was disappointed in.
I'm able to complete. That's the only thing. Yeah.
I guess, what did you see on that play, and to see him make that catch, I guess, what was that like? You had a connection with him over the course of the camp.
Yeah, I'm just excited for all of them. I gifted a lot of receivers the prime DT96s. A couple of them had them on. So I just gifted a couple of them, like the main receivers going into this game. I gifted them some cleats. Some wore them, some didn't. But I was like, okay, this is just my little appreciation gift to them, because they don't be having a lot of stock. So I couldn't do everybody. I wish I could. But yeah, it's great knowing that he's able to come out here and put on the show how he's supposed to, and how we know he can. But we still need a couple more receivers and them to be able to get off. But the way we was able to run the ball and how the running backs were running, they was running physical, and the line was making their blocks and not letting people get back there. So I was thankful.
That one did you know that it was him or left hand?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a feeling. The first one I had to 22, it was like, but it wasn't me, So that's when it's like you know it, like, internally. I don't know. What do you do for a hobby? Like, what's your hobby?
I don't know where he's going with this. I absolutely love when he's in a good mood and does press conferences like this, where it's like a conversation with him and the media. But I don't know who they're talking about, because the sound is too low for me to hear the questions. But I do really love the way that he's showing love to so many of his teammates. There was a time where Shedeur, the way that he's hard on himself, it would kind of carry over to him kind of in press conferences, at least being hard on his teammates, right? And so I think that's where some of the accusations of like really harsh criticism about his teammates came from. And so it just feels really good for him to acknowledge the work that needs to be done, but also give his teammates props. And I'm definitely going to go back and listen to this and learn the details of who he was gifting cleats to and whatnot.
But when you're going to swing a good one. When you swing it, it's going to come out right. So, that's it.
Hey, Shedeur, when you think about the open competition, as it's called, how do you process that? And do you feel like you'll really have a fair shot to maybe win the job?
See, I just think about when I get out there, just doing what I got to do. Everything else is not in my hands, so I worry about it. That's like, I don't know. I just don't think that deep into everything, because it's nothing you're going to be able to control. So why put energy in something that you can't control? So the most
I'm not gonna lie, that was a word I needed to hear tonight. I needed that message myself.
you could do is, whenever you get your opportunity, your numbers call, perform and at least do the bare minimum and win the game. So that's what I feel like we did today, and it's definitely things I'm able to grow off of.
Last one from right there.
On another field over there by yourself, you're giving up 14 reps, haven't gotten a rep yet with the first team offense. How were you able to remain so patient? And did you know that once the reins came off you, it was go time for you?
I mean, God's patient with us as humans. We mess up at times, but I don't feel like He throw us away as individuals. So it's different things and different life lessons, you got to go through. And I haven't went through this situation, that I'm in ever. So it's really just a test, I feel like from God or whoever it's from, it's just a test. But anyway, I'm just thankful that I was able to see the day of light and get out there and be able to play. So, they didn't have to let me play. So anything and everything, is good for me. So then, the kids looking up, the kids definitely inspire me, of course, more. So a lot of people incarcerated that definitely talk to their friends, to talk to me, to tell me my friend from jail was, watching you play and watching everything that's going on. So it's just like the world, I say, is so small and everybody sees everything. And I'm thankful to be able to inspire people through everything. Because the lady just told me now, when I'm having a bad day, I just think about Shedeur, and I'm saying I'm gonna act like Shedeur. You know, so like that's so cool. You know, to me that I'm some form of inspiration. Appreciate you.
That is so sweet. Oh my God. I'm glad I got to see the end of that press conference because I only got to see part of it earlier. Um, but no, that for anybody who follows me on Twitter, I posted this story on Twitter. But when I was at the Shrine Bowl, I actually got to see him interact with fans in person. And that interaction, that appreciation for fans that he's talking about at the end of this press conference, yo, that is so real. Because here's what happened. So at the Shrine Bowl, I most of the players that I was trying to cover were on his side of the field. And it's like east west. I don't remember which side it was, but I remember I walked in on one side, I had to go to the other side. So when I got to the other side, him and Bucky and some people who were with them were some of the first people that I ran into. And also, if you follow me, you saw the picture that I took with him or whatever. But so I see him on the sideline. He wasn't playing, but he was there, and Bucky was there. And the way AT&T Stadium is set up, the sidelines down here, and then like the stands are up here. And so there are these kids that come rushing to the railing because they saw him down there and they're trying to get his attention. And I remember watching this interaction like, okay, he could easily just ignore them because they're several feet above them, or act like it's just too inconvenient, too much of a challenge to try to sign things for them, because basically they're way up here. They're trying to get things down for him to sign and have him throw them back up or hand them back up. Right. So it wasn't exactly the simplest process, but he was standing there and he was like really trying to sign things. And security didn't like the kids hanging over the railing, so they tried to break it up. But he tried to get to as many as possible, and he was smiling and humble and kind the entire time. And then when security was like, hey, we got to quit, he walked away. But then after he walked away, and this was a story that I was telling on Twitter. So he's walking away, and there's this kid. I remember the kid because he had on this baggy Shedeur Sanders jersey, and he was like blonde. He couldn't have been more than like 6 or 7 years old. So like this little blonde kid starts rapping the lyrics to perfect timing. I just knew every word, just went word for word, bar for bar. He's little kid flashing his imaginary watch and everything. And I just remember watching this, and it was like one of the most pure fan moments I have ever seen. And I didn't even know little kids liked him like that. Like, I know a lot of sports fans like him. I know a lot of Cowboys fans are still fans of his dad. But I didn't know that like little kids, 10 and younger, were just like, oh my God, Shedeur, like legendary. It was the cutest thing. So like when he talks about, learning that he has fans like that, and just the appreciation he has for those fans, I've seen it firsthand. And it really is a big deal, and it's something to see. Like even me, he didn't have to be nice to me. He did not know who the hell I was. And he said yes to me asking for a picture before I even really got the question all the way out. And then took more than one. And neither one of them were good. I don't know what was going on with the person who took the picture, but first one was worse than the one that I released. And he still took another one. Like, dude is cool as hell. So yeah, after meeting him in person, I was like, what is there not to love? Okay, I'm gonna look at some of y'all's comments. Mr. Jacob B. Frank Brandon says, young brother did awesome. I agree. And so does LeBron James. LeBron James gave him a shout out. Nike updated one of their ads and put that out. A lot of people are sharing that. I'm like, what kind of fifth rounder gets this treatment, y'all? He's a star. Angela McClellan says, he's such a good kid and he wanted to make his dad proud. Facts. Especially after everything his dad has been through. I definitely understand what it's like to have a close relationship with your dad. And then when they start having like just scary medical situations, how significant every moment becomes. Marvin's Antoine is supporting Black Queens. Thank you. I appreciate that. And gave me a super chat, $19.99. Thank you so much, Marvin. I wish I had a super chat button. If I keep getting super chats like this, maybe I'll be able to afford a super chat button. So I can celebrate y'all properly. But I appreciate the acknowledgement and the contribution. Thank you. Adam says, Shedeur is just getting started. Obviously, it was the first game, so he's going to be better. Agreed. I do think he's just getting started. Somebody said he won't be with the Browns next year. I hope that wasn't a negative judgment on tonight's performance. I hope that was them saying that like some other team is going to appreciate him more and is going to find some way to acquire him. But and Clement, who is a regular viewer, definitely someone who I appreciate not only for the viewership but also for the commentary, is welcoming everybody to the chat. So if you're new here and you're like, who is this guy who keeps welcoming everybody to the chat and telling people to like stuff? That is Clement, and he's here for like every stream. Clement, are you a bot? You're always here. And Bruiser says he's just a natural. Agreed. So when I make time to watch the film, I think the things that I'm going to look for are, okay, what were the situations that led to his incompletions? Because I think on first watch, what stood out instantly was that, like, okay, he was experiencing some pressure. Like, he gave compliments to his own O-line tonight, but there were a couple of times where they let him down a little bit. So he was experiencing some pressure. There were some times where even if the pressure didn't get to him, you could tell the decision making, like he was still trying to fill things out. And there were also a couple of times where the ball was thrown like behind a receiver or not exactly on target. I think those were times where he was on the run, because that tends to be the times where he's less than accurate, is when he's on the run and then tries to get the ball off and he's just off platform. And so the throw doesn't go where you'd like it to go. But I also think that some of it is just him still getting on the same page with these receivers. You know, as it has been reported, he has not gotten a lot of reps. So he has not had a lot of opportunities to build chemistry and good communication with these guys. So, yeah, there are going to be some times where eye contact doesn't mean the same thing to both of the people who are involved in the eye contact. So those are things that he's going to have to work on and get better at, but also things that will just come with time and with more opportunities. Adam says, I'd like to see what he could do with their top receiver, Jerry Jeudy. I would too. I would like for him to get those opportunities. And I don't know what the feeling is like in the locker room right now or with the team right now. As a matter of fact, let me see, since we listened to Shedeur's press conference, let me see if I can find the press conference for Coach Stefanski, because he was asked about future opportunities for Shedeur. And if there are some Browns fans watching and some Browns fans in the chat, I would love to get y'all's feedback on what he had to say. Because I'm like, I'm a Shedeur fan, not traditionally a Cleveland Brown. Have a little bit of a different perspective on all of this. Are these the same interview? I think it is. So we will go with the shorter one. Oh, wait, no. All right, let me pull this up and we can listen to what Coach Stefanski. It's always gonna happen at least once per stream, y'all. All right, Coach Stefanski, what you got for us? I'm gonna get faster at this one day, y'all.
Yeah, pleased with Shedeur, pleased with the offense. Again, not perfect, plenty that we can work on, but I thought the guys did a really nice job of Shedeur and operating, the guys making plays. So, again, a ton to teach off of.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's the exciting part, Kelsey, for us as coaches and their teammates to see those guys perform under the lights and, make plays. We see them making plays in practice, see if they can do it in these games. And that'll be continue to be part of this preseason.
What does this game do to your quarterback competition?
Yeah, we're really just focused on developing our players. We're in evaluation mode. I'm pleased with where the guys are, but I'm not diving into a quarterback competition.
To that point, though, when you think about,
I don't know. I kind of want to hear that again, because he was asked, how does Shedeur's performance tonight impact their quarterback competition?
Yeah, we're really just focused on developing our players. We're in evaluation mode. I'm pleased with where the guys are, but I'm not diving into a quarterback competition.
Okay, he said he's not diving into it.
Point though, when you think about
Fair.
Shedeur specifically and the evaluation process, there are a lot of different types of situations that he was in by playing so long. How will that help in terms of really assessing where he's at?
Yeah, the situations were invaluable for Shedeur, for all of our offense. We got a 3rd and 1 where he had a quarterback sneak. I mean, there's just a lot of football, and that's by design with him getting a ton of reps in this game, and he'll get a ton of reps next week as well. That's all part of our development of our young players.
Kevin, you get the turnover play that you get the turnover, then you got the quarter break. Did you tell him like you get the touchdown right?
I don't remember.
All right, so on some of his answers, and I don't know if this is because he just doesn't want to take the conversation further, because here's the thing. Sometimes people will not answer a question, and it's not that they don't want to answer the question. It's that they don't want to say something that leads to a follow-up, that leads to another topic that they don't want to discuss. So, for example, if he were to, when he was asked how Shedeur's performance impacted the quarterback competition, if he were to say, oh, yes, it's definitely something that we're going to take into consideration with the current quarterback competition, then they might have followed up with asking more details, like what they would take into consideration or what his initial thoughts are. And I can understand a head coach not wanting to get into a conversation that involves the evaluation of other players who are currently injured, who didn't get to play tonight, and just having to hash all that out in front of mics and cameras. And so it can be easier to just be like, I'm not diving into that. And even with the question where he was asked about Shedeur, but he looped in the entire offense into his answer. I think when I first listened to it, I was like, why can't you just give Shedeur his flowers? Like, why you got to bring the whole offense into it when you were asked about one player? Why can't you just answer about this one player? But okay, he's coaching the whole team. I'm going to let it go, especially since he just said Shedeur will get a lot of reps next week. Now, I don't know if that means in practice, if he'll get more reps at practice, like what a lot of people are hoping for and expecting, or if he just means, yeah, we ain't giving him no reps at practice, but, we're going to throw him in the game again, which will be some bullshit. So I'm assuming he means at practice, but I like hearing that. So that kind of smooths over everything else that we heard.
Remember? Probably. I can't remember.
When you call that, do you think it's going to Gabe Davis on this play?
When you call those type of plays, I think there's a lot of options.
Turnover play that you get the turnover, then you got the quarter break. Did you tell him like you get the touchdown right?
I don't remember. Probably. I can't remember.
When you call that, do you think it's going to Gabe Davis on this play?
When you call those type of plays, I think there's a lot of options on them, including the quarterback running. So not necessarily.
Will he start the next game?
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I got to see who's healthy, all those type of things.
Yeah, but was there a particular play?
Okay. So he said that Shedeur will get a lot of reps this week, but then he was just asked if Shedeur is going to start the next preseason game. And he said he doesn't know yet. He's got to see who's healthy. So I'm going to take off the Shedeur fan hat and put on just sports analyst commentator hat and say, this is also fair because he does have other they got buku quarter. I think the Browns have 6 quarterbacks now, don't they? Right? So if the quarterbacks who didn't get to play today, because I I think it was just Shedeur and Tyler Huntley who played today. So the other two, if they end up being healthy, they do need to get some reps, and it would kind of make sense to let one of them start the next game. So, all right, fair, all fair.
You looked at it's a pretty nice play. Shedeur made.
Yeah, I thought the scramble, the throw to Luke, where Luke grabbed it with one hand, was pretty special by both those guys. And again, that's the fun part of this sport. That's the fun part of coaching. We get to pour everything we got into these young players, and you get to go see them perform.
It seemed like early on, there's been so much talk about under center, kind of transitioning to this offense. It seemed like early on, you guys really did a lot of shotgun. That maybe the kind of
It wasn't. Yeah, we can do either. We don't. We like a lot of things we can do from under center, like a lot of things we can do from the gun. So it wasn't intentional.
How do you think you handled the under center work?
Good. Yeah. I mean, for all of our guys, there's things that we believe in terms of technique and how you do that. And I think it's the young guys in particular, when they're coming from college, they don't have as much work. So I think they're continuing to get better and better. Yeah. Yeah, hard to say. Obviously, I saw the stats and I saw Carson making those tackles, but need to look at it to see exactly. I know that it wasn't perfect for any player out there, but I appreciate how those guys compete and those young players. That's the first time putting the uniform on, first time getting out there in some game action. They've both got a lot of reps in that Wednesday practice as well.
You wanted to see someone surprise you in this quarterback competition, and that's why you're kind of keeping it open. Would you say that Shedeur surprised you in any way? And if so, what surprised you?
No, I think we have an expectation for our quarterbacks, Mary Kay, and we have an expectation for our players when they're playing this game in that position to go operate and make good decisions with the football. Our quarterbacks took care of the football, which is no small thing. The guys who touched it had great ball security. Again, zero giveaways is a really big deal. And then the 2 takeaways I thought were excellent.
First drive.
Okay, so this, I think, is another point where Browns fans, or some Browns fans, definitely Shedeur fans, might take issue, because he was asked if Shedeur Sanders surprised him at all. And he's like, oh, no, we have expectations of our quarterbacks. And I'm just like, but are you going to sit here and act like he's been given the same opportunity to prepare? Are you going to sit here and act like he was given the same welcome as other quarterbacks? Because that makes a difference. And if you as a coach are going to be honest and acknowledge that he was not given the same opportunities to prepare, that he was not given as many reps, and I would hope that you as a coach understand what that means for a player's development, I would expect you to at least acknowledge, like, we're glad that Shedeur showed up and was ready to start on short notice. At least say that much. Can you at least acknowledge that, like, yo, y'all did not prepare him for this for real? Y'all were preparing for someone else to get the start, for someone else to get those snaps. And at the end of the day, you needed Shedeur to do it, and he did a great job. Can you just at least acknowledge that? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, you don't got to blow smoke up his ass. You don't got to do all that. But can you at least just acknowledge that while you have standards for all your quarterbacks, you didn't give the same preparation to all your quarterbacks, and he still showed up? That's all. I'm not expecting to hear that from him. I don't like. I'm just saying that's what I would hope to hear from someone in his position who is, like, really just given a fair evaluation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're always yes. You need to get your special teams work in as well. So there's times when you want to get a kick in when maybe normally you wouldn't. There's times when you go for it, maybe normally you wouldn't, really based on the play and what you need to see from your players in the preseason. I think we're always going to be looking at our technique and those type of things, but I thought Dustin has been really kicking the ball well.
Getting it into tight windows, pretty nice touch on the ball, things that we've seen in training camp, those seem to be on display tonight. Were those some of the strengths that we're seeing?
Yeah, I thought there were a bunch of plays, Mary Kay, where the guys were working together. Sometimes it was in rhythm and we got to a read because we're in rhythm and the protection was good. There were other times that we had to make plays off schedule. And those are the things, again, when you're in practice, you preach them and you work those off schedule plays. So it was good that those came up tonight.
Hold on, I need to go back to her question.
Always going to be looking at our technique and those type of things, but I thought Dustin has been really kicking the ball well.
Getting it into tight windows, pretty nice touch on the ball. Things that we've seen in training camp, those seem to be on display tonight. Were those some of the strengths that we're seeing?
Yeah, I thought there were a bunch.
I can't hear all of it. She said something about tight windows or something. But hold on, let me listen to this answer.
Bunch of plays, Mary Kay, where the guys were working together. Sometimes it was in rhythm and we got to a read because we're in rhythm and the protection was good. There were other times that we had to make plays off schedule. And those are the things, again, when you're in practice, you preach them and you work those off schedule plays. So it was good that those came up tonight.
See, I don't even like him mentioning that like that because once again, we all know that Shedeur wasn't even getting reps like that. So to say like, oh yeah, it's good that those came up because, we've been working on that in practice. Yeah, the other quarterbacks have. Anyway, let this finish before I get too worked up.
Earn more reps with the twos or the ones, just as you move up.
Yeah, honestly, I'm pleased with the way Shedeur played. I'm pleased with the way the offense operated tonight. All things moving forward as we continue to practice, we'll be focused on all of our guys' development and getting these guys ready to play for the season.
Kevin, his first throw.
And this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like every opportunity that he had to like give Shedeur credit, he like loops in other people. Like none of his responses were just about Shedeur.
How do you think he handled everything just from an adrenaline?
You're not going to make every throw. And, that's part of this game. So any of our young players, we talked to them last night about this first game and the jitters that come with the first game. So I thought all the guys handled that well. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I'm honestly not focused there, Mary Kay. I think the guys need to continue to earn their roles. That's what these guys are doing.
What did Mary Kay?
Absolutely. Well, I thought all the guys handled that well. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I'm honestly not focused there, Mary Kay.
I can't hear her over him breathing into the mic. So I might have to give that a closer listen later. Because I don't know if this is yet another situation where he took a question about Shedeur and made it about everybody, or if that's really what she asked. I can't hear it. If you can hear it, drop it in the chat. I can't tell. But whoever this Mary Kay person is, I like her. She'd be asking good questions. All right, let me take a look at what y'all have been saying in the chat. Let's see. Young Masai says that's the double talking shit, but he should let Brooks start. Fair. And that's kind of what I was saying. I'm just like, yeah, he'd be double talking, but it does make sense for him to let one of the other guys start. Clement says apparently we're at 25 likes. Thank you very much. Marvel says, can't be honest because that would mean he has to admit to being bad at management. But you got to ask yourself, is he bad at management or is he doing exactly what he planned to do? And what he planned to do just was never giving Shedeur a fair shot until he absolutely had to. That's what we have to ask ourselves. And just for anybody who's just now tuning in and didn't hear my rant at the beginning, the only reason these questions are coming up is because of the dots that have been connected from the very beginning. Like Stefanski is the one who at a previous press conference this past week said that, he felt like drafting Shedeur was the owner's decision, and essentially insinuated that not everybody was on the same page about that. Like basically suggested that not everybody wanted Shedeur and didn't retract it. Didn't retract the statement, didn't correct it after the headlines started coming out and the rumors started swirling that he didn't actually want Shedeur. Which I'm just like, if that's not how you feel, or if that's not the impression that you want to send, you have the opportunity to correct it. You can say something and you didn't. So this whole idea that he's not being given a fair shot didn't come from out of nowhere. It came from that. It came from how far he fell in the draft in the first place. It came from the reports of him not getting enough reps. So then when he turns around and says some of the things that he's saying in this press conference, it does start to look like part of a pattern. So if you hear Shedeur fans, Browns fans talking about that, just know it is part of a pattern. It's not, oh, we like Shedeur, we hate Stefanski. It's no, this is looking like it's all connected in terms of his demeanor and the general way he tends to respond to questions about Shedeur. Angela says he acts like it would kill him to give him any credit. Exactly. Adam says 1 or 2 of these 6 QBs will be gone before the season begins, either traded or waived. This is facts. That's why some of the people who are like Shedeur won't be there next year, I'm just like, hey, you never know. They got 6 quarterbacks. They got to do something with some of them. And honestly, Shedeur is somebody that and I don't even know off the top of my head what the trade rules are for rookies, because I know their contracts work differently. But if there is an option to trade him, he's somebody who could actually get something for it. You know what I'm saying? This might end up being a buy low, sell high situation for the Browns. Angela also wants y'all to hit the like button. Hit that like button, y'all, and subscribe. Subscribe if you're new here. I'm glad I have so many people in the chat encouraging y'all to continue supporting. Let's see. Zilliman, I hope I'm saying that right, said they tried to bury Shedeur. He's too talented to hide. I 100% agree. And like I said at the beginning of the video, people who don't agree, you're not about to gaslight us into believing that the same league owners who have been proven to have colluded against players in other areas didn't get together and come up with a plan for how to deal with Shedeur Sanders. Like, you're not about to gaslight us into believing that. So when we say they, yeah, there was a they. Even if it wasn't 100% of them, I don't care. There was a they who tried to bury Shedeur. That's facts. You can't tell me otherwise. But yeah, he is too talented to hide. That's why when Coach Prime put out that tweet earlier today and was like, oh, it's going to be a problem after tonight. Yeah, I was with him on that. Like, sometimes when it comes to Coach Prime, it can kind of feel like he's doing a lot. But that was one moment where I was like, oh, no, he's got this one right. It is going to be a problem after tonight. Clement says Deshaun Watson right now is damaged goods due to his serious injuries. Deshaun Watson is damaged goods for a lot of reasons. Man, just I almost went on a tangent about something completely unrelated, and I had to stop myself. We'll save my references to Deshaun Watson for the next time I talk about Shannon Sharp. I'll put it that way. But yeah, Deshaun Watson on several levels, damaged goods, unfortunately. Just considering the trajectory that he was on and what he could have accomplished in the league, it's crazy how the mighty can fall. Raven liked and subscribed. Thank you so much. And Meech, what up, Meech? Good to see you here. Said they definitely hated on that young man. Facts. And some people say it was about his dad. I don't care who it was about. The way they did him was unnecessary. Ain't no way he should have fell to the 5th round. That was not supposed to happen. And then the crazy part about him falling to the 5th round is that when he was projected to go in the 1st round, those projections were based on things that people actually were able to see. It's based on his gameplay in college. It was based on even some of the personality that he showed in terms of leadership with the team and the way he carried himself in press conferences, so on and so forth. Then all of a sudden, we get to the combine, we get to, some of the post-college season events that happen, and there's all these rumors of just him doing crazy shit, like trying to get people to play Settlers of Catan during interviews, which, first of all, Settlers of Catan is a dope-ass game, and if he really is a Settlers of Catan fan, that's just like another point for Shedeur Sanders. Like, I'm just like, okay, he's cooler than I even thought. But like, all this shit didn't even sound like him. And I just thought it was interesting that when it came to what we can see from Shedeur, it was like, oh, he was up here. But then all the things that they used to bring him down, they couldn't even, how some people will like pull up film and they'll point to certain things on film and make it seem like a player is worse than they actually are. That shit didn't even work with Shedeur. Some people tried it. And I remember seeing, because somebody posted the video of, I want to say it was every time Shedeur got sacked or maybe his interceptions, it was something crazy like that. But people on social media were checking that person like, oh, well, go back and make another video like this of all his touchdowns. Go back and make another video like this of all his scrambles for a first down. Like, people were checking them. So they literally couldn't even come up with something that everybody could see to bring him down. When it came to bring him down, all of a sudden it was all this stuff that people never saw. And I'm just like, no, that's wild. This doesn't even look right. Well, hello to you too, Meech. And yeah, we'll talk about the Cowboys tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna do a post game tomorrow, just because, man, when it comes to Cowboys content creators and their post game streams, it's just like, whew. So we'll see. We'll see. Clement says they the haters were looking for Shedeur's downfall, but he's shown what he was about on the field, and mainly Dion. And it's laughable that the NFL was trying to humble him. It's crazy. I'm just glad they didn't do something worse. Zillman says the NFL makes up stories to fit its narratives. Many of the opinions on those sports shows are not based on objective facts. This is true. NFL and the media around it are very political. Yeah, I'm wondering how that may or may not change with this deal between the NFL and ESPN. I feel like I've already seen some changes in the way the NFL is covered, just even with the deal being talked about. And that deal is not even finalized yet, which is interesting. Angela said, how did Jimmy do? You know what? I wish I had watched Jimmy more closely. When I go back and look at the game, I am going to do a better job of looking at him. I think I really wanted to see Shedeur prove a lot of people wrong tonight. So I was very focused on the Browns offense, and I did not look at Jimmy enough. I heard his name, and so I know he did something good, but I couldn't tell you in detail. I remember whatever it was something that made me think like, oh, he's somebody people are going to have to watch out for. Because there are a lot of people who are not familiar with Jimmy Horn's game. There are a lot of people who are not familiar with how many good receivers that Colorado actually had. Like, when I was listening to some of the mainstream sports shows this past week, it sounded like there were some people who really thought that the only reason that Shedeur looked good with Colorado was because he had Travis Hunter, which I'm like, don't get me wrong, Travis Hunter, phenomenal athlete. Him and Shedeur made some great plays together, but there were games where Travis Hunter was hurt and not in the game. There were also games where it seemed like the whole plan of the opposing defense was to shut down Travis Hunter, and these other receivers had to make plays. And there were some good guys on the Colorado team. I might make a video about it. I might make a video like, okay, like if you're a Colorado fan, these are the now NFL players that you should be watching. Because I was disappointed. Well, I can't say I was disappointed. I kind of had a feeling Cameron Stillman Craig might not get drafted, but he's in Jacksonville. And so that was really good to hear. So I'm just like, earlier today, I started kind of like looking at all my favorites and being like, well, where did they end up? Where did they go? So, yeah. It might have been a kick return, honestly, Angela. It might have been. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember it being something that I was like, okay, he's putting good stuff on film. And I love that for him. All right, so that's pretty much it for tonight. I do appreciate everybody who came into the chat, everybody who subscribed and liked the video. Also, definitely share it. Sharing does a lot more than you know for the algorithm. So like, subscribe, share, and then turn your notifications on. So that way, the next time I go live or post something, you'll be one of the first to know. It might be about the Browns. It might be about the Cowboys. It might be about one of my other favorites, Caleb Williams with the Bears. It might be about college. I'm kind of getting back to where I was year one of my content, which if you're a person who's been watching me since year one, I started this podcast in 2021. I covered so many things. And then when I started writing about the Cowboys, it became so much easier to just make videos about the Cowboys because like I was spending the day writing about the Cowboys and it's like, well, I'll just make a video about what I know. And I love the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, my favorite receiver. Also, Odigizua, my favorite defensive player, period, regardless of the position. Maris, Demo, so many guys on that team I love. They are definitely my favorite team. But as I'm trying to increase my output anyway, I do want to make more time to talk about a lot of the other players and teams that I love. So, yeah, make sure your notifications are on and come back and see us in the chat again. But on that note, I need to get some sleep to make sure that I'm ready to both work and talk about Cowboys tomorrow. So I'll see y'all next time. This has been another episode of Bitches Love Sports. I'm your host, Jazz Monet, and I'm out.
You only think of us as a bitches when you intimidated. Put it that way. I think
people
that's
look at a woman and she's an
so
aggressive
sad.
woman who's out to get what she wants to get. You know what I'm saying? Ambitious, and they want to say, you know, when a male is assertive, this is what he wants. He's looked at as a strong male, but yet when I get it, you know, I'm a bitch.
Exactly.
And if that's what I gotta be, exactly, to get what I want and to make it somewhere, then I'll just be that.